Hello everyone, welcome to a new video where we share inspiring stories of faith, transformation, and love. Before we get started, please write it in the comments. It's always amazing to see how far this message reaches. And of course, if you're not subscribed yet, take a moment to subscribe now and turn on the notification bell. This way you won't miss any stories like the one we're about to share today. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and join me on this journey of reflection and transformation. Here we go. I could have never imagined that my life would change so drastically. One seemingly ordinary Sunday, I was at church as usual, sitting in my favorite spot in the center of the sanctuary, where the melodies from the choir seemed to bring heaven closer to earth. The sermon that morning was about tithing, a subject I had heard many times. Bring the whole tithe to the temple, the pastor proclaimed, fervently quoting Malachi 3:10. Those words stirred a mix of guilt and obligation within me, feelings that always accompanied me on such occasions. I was diligent in paying my tithe, even when it strained my finances. I believed it was necessary to secure my blessing. I attended church faithfully, helped in the community, and tried to treat people kindly. But deep down, if I was honest, I recognized that my relationship with God was transactional, a checklist of spiritual tasks I needed to complete. Among them, tithing was my greatest achievement. I religiously gave my 10%, believing it would ensure my entrance to heaven, until the day came that shattered all my certainties about life, death, and God. It was an ordinary afternoon, and I was heading home after running a few errands when it happened. A truck ran a red light and crashed into my car with a tremendous force. I didn't even have time to hear the sound of tires screeching or glass shattering before everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer in the car. I found myself in a place of endless light, a presence that radiated warmth and peace like a comforting embrace. Yet at the same time, I felt completely exposed, as if every secret of my soul was laid bare. His presence was so majestic that words failed to describe it. He emanated love and authority in a way that was both overwhelming and welcoming. I didn't need an introduction. I immediately knew who he was. My legs gave way, and I fell to my knees before him, trembling. I wanted to speak, to explain myself, but the words simply wouldn't come out. Jesus looked at me with eyes that pierced through every layer of my being. I felt loved, but also deeply unworthy. He gently asked, "Do you know why you are here?" Before I could stammer anything, he said, "Let me show you." In an instant, my whole life flashed before me like a living movie. Every moment, every decision, every thought was revealed. I saw the moments when I was kind, but also those when I ignored people in need out of mere. I realized the pride I felt in my acts of service, not because they glorified God, but because they made me feel superior. Even the tithe, of which I was so proud, was exposed as an empty ritual, performed out of obligation, rather than love or genuine faith. "You've misunderstood," Jesus said firmly, but without condemnation. "The tithe isn't about money. It's about trust. It's a matter of the heart." Those words broke something within me. Tears streamed down my face as I realized how far I was from truly knowing him. "You have received much, but you have withheld even more," he continued. "Now, I will show you what you have lost." Before I could ask questions, the light around me shifted. Suddenly, I was transported to a place of indescribable beauty. Colors I had never seen danced across the sky, and the air seemed to vibrate with a heavenly melody. I saw people with radiant faces of joy and peace, worshiping together in perfect harmony. There was no pain, no sadness, no separation, only love, belonging, and an overwhelming peace. Jesus was by my side again, and his expression was full of tenderness. "This is what I desire for all my children," he said. "But not everyone understands what it means to live for me. They fixate on rituals and rules, but their hearts are far away." Some were faithful servants, their lives marked by humility and love. Others, like me, focused on outward appearances while neglecting the deeper call to surrender their hearts completely to God. It was painful to acknowledge that I was part of the latter group, but the truth was undeniable. "It's not what you give," Jesus said, "it's how you live. True worship is a life poured out in love and obedience." Now, I found myself in a place of absolute despair. The light and joy of heaven had been replaced by a suffocating darkness. Cries and wails echoed around me, laden with regret and suffering. I saw dark shapes, trapped in torment. The air felt heavy, filled with selfishness, pride, and a lack of repentance. "This is what it means to live apart from me," Jesus said, sadness in his voice. "When you hold back your heart, when you live only for yourself, that's the fruit of your choice." But Jesus fixed his gaze upon me. He wasn't showing me this to punish me, but to awaken me, so I could understand the depth and reality of the choices I had made. As I was surrounded by a brilliant light, I heard a powerful voice full of authority and love. "You cannot serve two masters." I realized the weight of my selfishness, my distorted priorities, my pride, and my constant need for control. All of these things kept me from fully surrendering to him. I was blinded by the true cost of my faith. But in the midst of my confusion, a new hope emerged. The voice of Jesus pierced the darkness like a beam of light. "You have a new chance." At those words, I returned to the light. Jesus was before me, extending his hand. "You can return to your life and live it for me, or continue as you are and miss out on the fullness of what I have prepared for you." The weight of this offer was overwhelming. I knew I didn't deserve another chance, but his love for me was undeniable. I fell to my knees, tears streaming down my face. "Lord, I choose you," I whispered, my heart overflowing with humility. "I no longer want to live for myself. Teach me to live for you." Jesus smiled. His expression was full of joy and compassion. "Go and tell others what you have seen," he said. "Help them understand that I desire their hearts, not their rituals. Remind them that true worship is a life given in love." Suddenly, the light around me grew more intense, and I felt as though I was being pulled back toward my body. I woke up in the hospital, my body aching but alive. The doctors were surprised by my recovery, calling it a miracle. Yet, I knew that the true miracle had taken place in my soul. In the days that followed, I struggled to find words to describe what I had experienced. The encounter was so transformative that it seemed impossible to summarize it in a simple phrase. But I knew Jesus had given me a mission to share this message no matter how difficult it would be. Years had passed since that encounter with Jesus. At first, the change felt overwhelming, and I struggled to integrate what I had learned into my daily life. My religious community viewed tithing as a sacred ritual, a symbol of righteousness. By studying the scriptures and spending hours in prayer, I began to comprehend the depth of what Jesus had taught me. Tithing was never a formula to attract blessings or guarantee divine favor. It has always been an expression of trust, a reflection of our surrender to God. It wasn't about perfection, but about a heart ready to surrender. The pressure to meet religious standards began to fade away. I understood that God didn't want a perfect offering. He wanted a genuine relationship with me, even in my imperfection. He wanted me to trust him completely, knowing that he would provide for all my needs. This revelation transformed my approach, not only to tithing, but to life in general. I learned that true worship doesn't lie in rituals, but in a life lived in love, humility, and obedience to God. Today, I share this story in the hope that others too may find freedom and transformation. Jesus isn't looking for our performances, but for our hearts. And when we give him everything, we discover the true fullness that only he can offer. For the first time, I was free to give, not out of fear of consequences, but out of a sincere desire to honor God. It wasn't just about money. My surrender included my time, my energy, my thoughts, my words, and my actions. The act of giving became an expression of trust and love. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It was gradual, almost imperceptible at first, but deeply significant. My interactions with my church, my community, and my family began to change. I started to give differently, no longer limited to a percentage of my income simply because it was expected. Instead, I gave authentically, guided by my heart. I gave to people going through difficulties. I gave to causes that touched my soul. I gave to show the same love and compassion that God had shown me. The act of giving became a practical manifestation of the transformation that was taking place within me. And just as my heart changed, I began to see changes in the world around me. My perspective on tithing took on new dimensions. I could clearly see how this concept had been distorted in many places, reduced to a tradition or a facade of religiosity. Many people, like I once was, were caught in a mechanical cycle of giving without understanding, acting without purpose, trying to appease God with actions lacking a true connection with Him. I remember one Sunday in particular, I was sitting in church, listening to a sermon about tithing. The pastor emphasized the importance of giving and the blessings it would bring. It was the same message I had heard so many times before, but this time, something inside me revolted. I wanted to stand up and say, "It's not about money, it's about heart and love." However, I realized that the congregation wasn't ready to hear that, so I stayed silent, reflecting on how much I had evolved. I knew I could no longer participate in this empty cycle, but I also understood that not everyone was ready for the truth I had found. It was a painful realization. Feeling like a stranger in a place I had once called home wasn't easy, but I understood that my path was unique, just like each person's journey. God had shown me this truth for a reason, and that reason wasn't just for me. My mission was to share what I had learned with patience and love. In others, I began to see that true generosity is not measured by numbers or rituals, but by the willingness of the heart to give itself to God and to others. Over time, I started sharing my story with people I trusted. At first, the reactions were skeptical. Many were resistant to what I was saying, and I didn't blame them. I had been in their shoes too. I had believed that tithing was a transaction, a way to ensure God's favor, and I had lived according to that belief. But now that I was seeing the flaws in that thinking, I could no longer stay silent. Little by little, one person after another, people began to listen to me. At first, it was just close friends, but as I shared more, I saw hearts transforming. They began to realize that the truth was not in the amount we gave, but in the surrendering of our hearts to God. And when they understood this, their gifts also changed. It wasn't just a financial shift. I saw people begin to give with joy, without hesitation, and find peace in their generosity. It was no longer just about money. It was about offering their hearts to God. For the first time, I deeply understood what Jesus meant when He said that the kingdom of God is in the heart. It wasn't about outward appearances, but about an inner transformation. With this conviction, I started to share my experience with larger groups. I recounted my journey of encountering Jesus and the impact it had on my understanding of tithing. Not everyone was ready to listen. Some welcomed my words with open hearts, while others dismissed the message. Yet this did not disturb me. I knew I had to speak the truth, even when it wasn't popular or easy to accept. One day, I was invited to speak at a church event on the theme of generosity. I realized it was an opportunity to share everything I had learned about tithing. I was nervous, fearing the reaction of the people, but as I stepped onto the stage, I felt a peace that surpasses all understanding. I spoke about the heart of giving, explaining that tithing was not just a financial transaction, but a reflection of our love for God and for others. As I spoke, I could see understanding in the eyes of many participants. They began to realize that giving wasn't about getting something in return, but about living a life of generosity that reflected the love and grace of God. I shared how Jesus taught me that tithing goes beyond money. It is an expression of trust and surrender, a gift of our time, attention, and love, both to those around us and to God Himself. When I finished, several people came up to me to express their gratitude. They spoke about how this new perspective had changed their understanding. In that moment, I understood that my message had made a difference. But more than that, I knew this was just the beginning of something greater. A call to continue spreading the truth about what it means to live with a generous heart. The truth was spreading, a heart in faith. Now, looking back, I realize how far I've come. The journey has been tough, and I know it's far from over. But one thing is certain, I'm no longer the person I was before. Today, I don't give out of obligation. I give because I want to, because my heart has been transformed by God's love. This transformation reflects what Jesus revealed to me years ago when he spoke to my heart. Tithing is not what you think. It is so much more. I've learned that tithing isn't just a financial obligation. It's about giving everything back to God, not out of duty, but out of love. When we give with all our hearts, we express the true essence of Christ's love. It's the purest and most authentic form of worship, a surrendered heart, guided by grace, and a desire to reflect the love we have received from God. The truth has set me free, and I know it can set others free too. Because in the end, it's not about how much we give that matters, but how we give what we have with sincerity, love, and gratitude. And in that surrender, we find the freedom that only the truth of God can offer. So what did you think of this story? I hope it touched your heart as much as it touched mine. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like and share this video with someone who needs it too. Today, let's spread this inspiration together. Oh, and before you go, let me know in the comments which moment impacted you the most. I can't wait to read your responses and reply. Lastly, but not least, if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any amazing stories like this one. Thank you so much for watching this far. May God bless your life, and may you continue to spread love and faith wherever you go. See you in the next video.